Chapter 6: Hip-Hop, Persona, Power, and Symbolism. Hip-hop is the genre where visual identity behaves least like decoration and most like governance. Pop often sells eras. R&B often sells mood. Hip-hop sells status, and status needs symbols the audience can read at a glance. Silhouette, posture, jewelry, cars, entourage, location, typography, even the way a face is held on camera. The music can be intimate or aggressive, playful or mournful, but the visual system typically answers one overriding question: who has power here and why? Since 2015, the center of gravity shifted from label-controlled imagery to artist-controlled feeds, and hip-hop adapted faster than any genre. The camera is now always on, and the persona must hold up under constant replay. Short-form clips, paparazzi angles, live streams, fan edits, courtroom steps, red carpets, brand campaigns, tour footage. Hip-hop's visual identities succeed when they operate like symbols, simple enough to be recognized instantly, flexible enough to travel across platforms, and charged enough to mean something beyond style. The visual job of hip-hop: make power legible. Power in hip-hop is expressed through a tight set of visual levers. These levers recur across artists and subgenres because they solve practical identity problems. First, ownership signals, the proof layer. Hip-hop's classic visual language of wealth didn't disappear. It became more systematized. Ownership signals are not just flexing, they are evidence inside the narrative. Key components: metals and stones, chains, watches, grills as mobile trophies, vehicles as moving stages and status containers, designer logos as shorthand for access, taste, and frictionless mobility, spatial proof, private jets, backstage corridors, gated exteriors, studio interiors with gear and plaques. In the post-2015 era, the audience sees behind the curtain more often, so proof has to be repeated and refreshed. The visual system becomes a loop. The same symbols, shown from new angles, placed in new contexts, kept current without losing recognizability. Second, threat and protection, the don't try me layer. Hip-hop also communicates power through deterrence. This can be explicit, hard imagery, or coded: security, distance, coldness, controlled access. Even softer artists often maintain some version of protected self. Common tools: shields, sunglasses, hoodies, masks, high collars, heavy outerwear, buffers, entourage formation, bodyguards, cars as moving walls, camera distance, wide shots with the artist centered, low angles, slow push-ins that feel like dominance, facial economy, minimal expression that reads as control. This is less about aggression than authority. The visual identity says, I can be approached as an icon, not accessed as a peer. Third, territory, the where I'm from layer. Hip-hop's symbolism is intensely geographic. Even when artists go global, the identity often keeps a grounded reference point. Territory can be literal or stylized. Neighborhood references and local landmarks, regional color palettes and sports iconography, dialect and typography choices in merch and captions, collaborative proximity, being seen with local peers, producers, or crews. The modern twist is that territory now competes with platform universality. The strongest systems translate local codes into global readability, specific enough to feel real, simplified enough to travel. 3 dominant persona models since 2015. Hip-hop's visual landscape is diverse, but 3 persona models repeatedly produce scalable identities. First, the mogul-minimalist. This persona communicates power through restraint. The look is clean, often dark or neutral, with high-quality materials and an emphasis on composure. Rather than shouting wealth, it assumes it. Core design traits: silhouette, streamlined, tailoring, monochrome sets, long coats, clean sneakers, or understated luxury. Color: blacks, creams, charcoal, muted blues, occasional deep jewel tones. Accessories: fewer pieces, but heavy hitters. 1 watch, 1 chain, 1 ring, or no jewelry at all. Body language: stillness, direct gaze, measured movement. Why it works now: it compresses well on small screens. Minimalism reads clearly in thumbnails. It aligns with brand partnerships and high-fashion access. It creates a grown narrative, from hustle to empire. Risk: minimal systems can blur together. Without a distinct facial, hair, or typography signature, the artist becomes generic luxury. Mogul-minimalism needs one sharp differentiator: a haircut, a recurring camera angle, a single emblem, a consistent setting. Second, the street myth builder. This persona turns biography into legend. The visuals feel like chapters in an ongoing saga. Trauma, triumph, loyalty, betrayal, reinvention. The symbolism is heavier, sometimes religious, sometimes militaristic, sometimes surreal. Core design traits: silhouette, layered and armored, puffer jackets, tactical vests, oversized denim, heavy boots. Texture: distressed fabrics, leather, workwear, metal hardware. Symbols: angels, demons, crosses, flames, graffiti scripts, animals, masks. World building: recurring motifs across videos, merch, tour sets, consistent fonts and icon marks. Why it works now: myth is shareable. Fans become archivists, decoding clues across posts and lyrics. A symbol system survives controversy, shifts in sound and aesthetic pivots. It sells product naturally. Merch becomes artifact, not shirt. Risk: over-symbolizing can feel forced. Myth must be earned through coherence over time, repeated motifs, consistent tone, and restraint in how many symbols compete in one frame. This persona treats hip-hop as a fashion and art platform. The identity leans into high contrast, unexpected silhouettes, odd proportions, theatrical makeup, couture references, ironic styling. Power is expressed as cultural control, the ability to bend taste. Core design traits: silhouette, extreme proportion, wide shoulders, elongated coats, cropped tops, exaggerated pants, sculptural footwear. Color: either stark monochrome or bold, curated palettes. Face and hair: deliberate transformation, dyed hair, graphic brows, signature makeup, stylized grills. Staging: editorial lighting, museum-like negative space, performance art cues. Why it works now: social media rewards novelty and instantly readable difference. It attracts fashion gatekeepers and expands the artist's influence footprint. It decouples the artist from genre constraints. Hip-hop as an identity engine, not a sonic box. Risk: disruption without a stable anchor can become costume. The strongest avant disruptors keep one unchanging element: a consistent facial presentation, a recurring pose, a repeated icon, or a fixed tone of humor/menace. Symbols that keep returning and what they do. Hip-hop symbols are not random. They perform functions in the identity system. Crowns, crosses, and halos. Legitimacy. Religious and royal references elevate street narrative into moral or historical scale. The message is not "I'm perfect, but my story matters." Masks and face coverings. Controlled access. Masks create distance, mystery, and brand clarity. They also solve a practical problem. The face becomes a logo. In a world of constant filming, a covering is both privacy and trademark. Black and white imagery. Seriousness. Monochrome signals documentary weight. Court steps, street scenes, studio labor, loss. It's a shortcut to "this is real." Red as alarm, danger, and vitality. Red appears when the identity needs heat. Aggression, dominance, provocation, lust for life. Used sparingly, it becomes a trigger color. Typography as accent. Crew and credibility. Hip-hop typography often borrows from street signage, luxury branding, sports lettering, or Gothic scripts. Fonts are social signals. They tell the audience which world you belong to before you say a word. Scaling identity across platforms. Feed, stage, brand. Hip-hop identities succeed when they are engineered for 3 arenas at once: feed, compression, and repetition. On social platforms, the identity must survive. Low resolution, random lighting, meme cropping, reposts without context. That pushes hip-hop toward repeatable anchors. A signature silhouette, hood up, long coat, tight tee, plus baggy pant contrast. A hair face marker, color, shape, glasses. A consistent palette, a recurring pose, chin up, hands clasped, side profile. A recognizable environment, studio, parking lot, backstage, city night. The feed is not a scrapbook, it's a pattern library. The audience learns their symbols by repetition. Stage, amplification, and readability. On stage, hip-hop must translate intimacy, raps conversational delivery, into stadium scale. Visual identity on tour tends to prioritize bold silhouettes that read from distance, high contrast colors that separate body from background, movement-compatible layers, jackets that open, accessories that catch light, iconography big enough to see, symbols, monograms, giant prints. Stage visuals also clarify persona. A mogul-minimalist might use controlled lighting and architectural staging. A myth builder might use cinematic set pieces and narrative interludes. An avant disruptor might treat the show as runway meets performance art. Brand partnerships. Legitimacy versus dilution. Hip-hop is now central to fashion and consumer branding, but partnerships stress test authenticity. The visual identity must answer. Does the brand serve the persona, or does it swallow it? Successful partnerships tend to align with existing symbols, color palette, typography, silhouette. Elevate the artist's world. Campaign as chapter, not interruption. Preserve the artist's stance, posture, gaze, tone. The failure mode is visual mismatch, a gritty persona in glossy, harmless styling, or a minimalist persona forced into loud prints. The audience reads that as loss of control, the opposite of hip-hop's visual promise. Genre microclimates. Different subgenres, different visual rules. Even within hip-hop, visual codes diverge sharply. A few broad microclimates dominate modern visibility. Trap and its descendants, density and heat. Often maximal. Logos, jewelry, saturated color, aggressive angles, fast edits. Visual identity leans into intensity. Loud proof, loud presence. Drill, uniformity and severity. More coded and collective. Face coverings, dark palettes, coordinated fits, group framing. The persona is less individual glamour and more factional authority. Conscious alternative rep, purpose and texture. Visuals lean documentary, archival or design-forward minimalism. Symbols focus on meaning. Books, protest references, local community, or art world cues. These are not strict boxes. Many artists blend codes to expand reach. Drill severity with high fashion tailoring. Trap maximalism with avant silhouette. Conscious aesthetics with luxury restraint. Practical framework, building a hip-hop visual system. For creators using this chapter as a design tool, hip-hop identity can be built as a system rather than a wardrobe. 1. Choose your power claim. Pick one primary claim. I own, wealth achievement. I'm protected, authority deterrence. I represent, territory community. I disrupt, taste culture. I survive, resilience myth. Mixing is allowed, but one must dominate. 2. Build two anchors. Silhouette plus symbol. Silhouette anchor, something you can recognize in a blurred photo. Symbol anchor, one sign that repeats, a color, a mask, a font, an emblem, a hairstyle. If you can't describe both in one sentence, the system is too complicated. 3. Create a proof loop that doesn't rely on spending. Not everyone can or should signal power through expensive objects. Proof can be performance proof, rehearsal stage discipline, craft proof, studio work, writing rituals, community proof, local roots, real relationships, endurance proof, tour grind, consistency. The point is consistency and credibility, not price. 4. Control the camera language. Hip-hop persona lives in framing. Low angle, dominance. Center frame, authority. Negative space, luxury or menace, depending on lighting. Close-up, intimacy or threat, depending on expression. Choose 2 recurring shot types and repeat them until they become yours. Closing. Hip-hop is a symbol engine. Hip-hop remains the most symbol-literate genre in modern music. It assumes the audience is fluent in codes and hungry for meaning. In the post-2015 landscape, where every artist is also a publisher, hip-hop's visual advantage is structural. It already knew how to turn clothing, posture, color, and objects into language. The artists who lead globally don't just dress well. They run a semiotic system, power made visible, repeated until it becomes myth, and flexible enough to scale from a 9/16 clip to a world tour stage without losing its charge.